Hi, welcome to the Pinole Community Services Commission special meeting, April 14th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And Maria, are you taking a roll call?
I'll take notes, Laura. If you want to go ahead and take the roll call, I'll take notes.
Okay, roll call. Could you give us your name, please?
Debbie Ojeda.
So right now we have 4 of the 7 commissioners attending.
Okay.
And the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the last meeting we had on March 24th. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
I make a motion.
Approve the minutes.
Oh,
Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
And was there any discussion about any of those items?
I didn't receive any comments.
Okay. So the the minutes from last meeting are approved. Now, citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens for this meeting that would like to discuss any issues?
I didn't receive any, Laura.
Okay.
I actually got a comment and I'll share it with you. And I don't get comments that often, but since this relates to, I guess I could share it when we talk about the agenda item, because it actually relates to one of the agenda items.
Okay, if you prefer to do that.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay, so let's move on to old business. The first item is the 2021 events dumpster day.
Yeah, so I'm bringing this item again. So I think at the last meeting we discussed, the commission came to an agreement that they would consider offering a dumpster day event if the county was in the yellow tier, which we currently are in now. Just wanted to bring it up to see if the commission had any thoughts, if they wanted to move forward with offering something this spring, or what the thoughts were on that event.
Well, I think we didn't have it last year. I think we ought to have it this year. I think we ought to have it in September. Has seemed to work out real good in the past. It shouldn't be raining. We got September 4th, 18th, and 25th. We don't want to do it on September 11th. That happens to be one of the Saturdays. So one of those 3 days, if you approve, we could get a hold of the company and see if they have that day open one of these days, if that's what you would like.
I think what we'll have to do first is, Maria, if you would be able to contact Republic and see if one of those dates will work for them.
Right.
And go from there.
Okay. I also want to note that we are, sorry, and I want to make a correction. We are in the orange tier, not the yellow tier. And I think that's what we discussed last time.
Sure.
Is that we would just, discuss this again as we move through the tiers. I also want to note that I spoke to Republic. I have been in communication with them about dumpster day events, and they did say that because we didn't offer an event last year because of the pandemic, that they would be able to offer us 2 dumpster day events this year. So if one happened in the spring and one could happen in the fall, they would be able to honor that for this year only.
I think that's a good idea. We're paying for it over the long term. We pay for everything that we get from them. If they're offering 2 days, I think that's a good idea. But we've accumulated more stuff that we didn't get rid of last year.
Imagine quite a few people will have quite a few things they'll want to get rid of or be newly aware they'd like to get rid of after spending the last year in their houses.
Do we have a concern about which tier we're at before we confirm that we have one in spring?
I think...
I don't believe this tier will be out in the open with everything. Everybody still has to wear their mask and that.
Sure.
I wouldn't think that there would be a problem with keeping the distancing that we need.
Okay.
As long as everybody wears a mask, and we'll probably be wearing masks for a long, long time.
So, Bob, you suggested September. And should we try and do one in July or sometime like that? What's everyone's feeling? Or a little earlier?
It sounds like we should do one earlier.
Okay.
But my question is, are we going to have a Pinole Community Services cleanup day? And we'll have to decide the date for that.
You mean the coastal cleanup?
No, not the coastal cleanup, the one that our group used to do.
Right.
Until COVID.
Community Service Day?
Yeah, Community Service Day.
That's a pretty huge undertaking, I think. And that was always in about earlier in the year. It'd be pretty tough to get that going now, I think. This is already April.
Yeah, I think you're right.
In my opinion, I think it would be hard to get to really plan and get all the groups and, you know, get school children and everything at this point. What's everyone else's feeling about this?
I figure we should probably stick with, you know, the item that's on the agenda right now, which is just dealing with dumpster day, and we can worry about scheduling other events later as the case may be.
You know, perhaps, Debbie, we could, as things get a little easier, you know, perhaps we could do something towards the end of the year.
Maybe.
Do a cleanup down Old Town, or you know, we could get a group and kind of organize that a little bit later.
That would be good.
So Maria, if we could, so what month would you think that we would do the first dumpster day?
I mean, I can reach out to Republic
Of course.
and see what they have available for spring or summer. You know, I know the council has expressed some interest in having an event, you know, a dumpster day this spring or summer. And, you know, we might be in the yellow tier by June. You know, conditions do seem to be improving.
Sure. So you're saying maybe June, late June or something?
I can definitely check in and see what's available, and depending on the commission, if you guys are available for those months as well, and if, you know, maybe hosting one during the spring, summer months. You know, next month is May. I don't know if we'll be able to get something together. It also depends on what Republic has available.
Okay.
And depending on their availability, we can work from that and then offer one maybe if September's too soon, maybe a little bit late. I think we've done them before in October too. So that's an option, and we can just see what's available, and then I'll bring it back to the commission.
Okay. And it would be nice to get scouts or someone to help us with this too. You know, to get some youth groups, perhaps Interact or something to help with us, Debbie, you know, and some scouting. What's your feeling, everybody?
I feel like June seems like a reasonable time frame for us to be able to get enough information and get the event together. I agree that May might be a bit too short of a time frame just in terms of coordinating with Republic and everything else.
So Maria, it sounds like we wouldn't want to do this before June. So you said you'll check with Republic and we can go from there?
Yeah, so you want to move forward with an event in June? Or not?
What's the feeling, everybody?
Well, that's fine with me.
I think June is potentially a good month. And
Bob, it's really important to have you because you help coordinate this whole thing, this whole event. So
I'm fine with an event in June as long as, you know, we're in the orange or yellow tiers. If we're having another spike because of some unforeseen, unfortunate event, then obviously it wouldn't be a good idea.
Okay.
Laurel, can we confirm a date? Maybe if is there a date in June that would work in particular for the group? And then we want to reach out to Republic. You know, I mean, I anticipate other cities might be booking their events as well. And then I can at least send that over.
Okay, what's everyone's feelings about June?
Like with June 12th? No, that's when the seniors graduate.
Let's see. Probably won't make any difference.
Yeah, it might not.
Okay, not the 19th for me, but what about the end of June, the 26th?
That works for me.
The 26th of June, possibly, see if there as first?
Okay, I'll reach out for the 26th and the 5th. I know they were working on it every other Saturday, I think, if I recall correctly. So I'll see if either June 5th maybe before, if schools are interested in volunteering or being involved. If not, then we can do a June 26th date.
Okay, great.
Does that work?
And what was our other date in September? Did we create one to ask about?
We
The
can
fourth-
definitely pick a
The
September
4th, the
date,
18th, or the 25th.
18th or the 25th. Okay.
If I may, through the chair, this is Hector.
Yes, Hector.
I believe that Maria has already confirmed an October 9th date. It's very close to September, and the Republic is holding that date for us. So will October 9th work?
Bob, will you be here for October 9th?
Yes, I can be here then.
Okay.
If we've already got the date reserved, might as well keep it.
Does that work for everybody? October 9th?
I think so.
Okay.
It gets a little funny this year because families are slowly beginning to plan outings.
Sure. Well, we'll just do the best we can.
Yes.
And Debbie, perhaps after this, later in between this, we can plan something just to do some cleanup around creeks and downtown and stuff. We can just get a group, and if we have an arrangement with Public Works or something to be able to help with disposing of trash and that, perhaps we could do that.
I actually want to interject briefly earlier on that. I got an email from the Friends of Pinole Creek saying that they were starting to do sort of pod-based cleanup stuff, have people go out in pods and take out the trash and dispose of it on their own. So sort of a more civil sector approach.
I think we could probably get some help. Sometimes it's more than just a little bit of trash that you're picking up.
Yeah.
We've got time to plan for that.
Our Rotary Club is going out most Sundays and picking up sections, maybe 8 of them or 10 of them, and just disposing of the trash in their own trash bins, which I think Laurel's right. It would be very helpful if we had a dumpster.
Yeah, it would be. Maria, what do you think about that? If we do something like this for a cleanup to try and get more citizens involved, more community, do you think it's possible we might be able to get some kind of container or something and work with Public Works on this?
We can definitely check and see what's possible and see. I mean, if they're doing individual cleanups, I know that Anne also reached out to me, and she will be joining us, I think, at next month to kind of give the commission an overview of a project that they're working on to see if there's also any collaboration that could be done between the commission and their group as well. So we can see if what can be done about that if you guys decide to host a kind of not coastal cleanup, but a community service or some kind of cleanup, because before for our events, they have provided us with a dumpster. So it's something that we'll have to see if that's possible.
It would be lovely to have an event where we can get children, if they want to, children's groups and that to participate, have an option anyway with families.
And I'd also note that the Beautification Committee suggested to the council as a whole a while back that it might be possible for the city to get solar-powered compactor dumpsters or something. I'm not sure of the exact details, but that it was potentially a possibility for a future budget cycle. And since the city is going to be getting unreserved funding from the American Rescue Act in the next budget cycle, that might be something we want to consider advocating for during that cycle.
Okay. So I think, unless anyone else has any other comments, I think we've covered the dumpster day. We're already set for October 9th, and then we would like to consider a time in June, the 5th or the 26th of June, so we could do 2. Bob, you're going to be here for both those, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that gives us time to decide on a date in June. Then it would be nice if we could get see if there are any groups that want to participate with us.
Get Maria, have her get our flyers made up so we can go stick them in the ground so people know once we figure out what the date is, so we can put them out 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time so that the public know that that's
okay.
this year. and give them to me, and I'll put them in.
So we'd want them out. If it's the 5th, which is early, the 26th would probably be better to give us a little more time planning, if that's possible. And yes, you want them out a couple of weeks before.
Yeah, right. And
Okay.
we need quite a few of them so we can cover different parts of town other than just Pinole Valley Road.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, let's move on to the park rules and policies. Tamara, I think you're on for this, aren't you? Okay.
Tamara, you're muted.
Thank you for reminding me that I muted myself while I fidgeted with my paperwork on my desk. If I could have the screen share, I will get the agenda item up so that we can take a look at it.
Okay, it should be active now. Go ahead.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, can you all see the draft City of Pinole Park rules?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so I can read through them lickety-split quick, or we could just raise issues as we go through them, because this is the same set of rules that we had up in March.
I believe of the four of us, I think Bob, am I correct? Bob was the only one not in attendance at the last meeting.
Correct.
So,
Let's read them through.
okay.
Okay, number one, all city parks except Fernandez Park are closed from 1/2 hour after sunset to 1/2 hour before sunrise the following day. This is in our current park rules, and it's continued into these new proposed rules. Fernandez Park is closed from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. This too is in a standalone resolution related to Fernandez Park, and it is the currently adopted hours. So we're proposing that to stay the same. It is unlawful for any person to be in any park when the park is closed. That is a current rule. Smoking or vaping of any substance is prohibited in all city parks and within 50 feet of all park entrances. Tobacco use of any kind is prohibited within all parks. So this is the motivation for updating the park rules. The first ask we had was to add vaping because we had a municipal code for vaping. So this is an expanded version of the smoking and tobacco use in parks, to clarify that vaping is not allowed in parks. And any substance, I think, is a change from what we had before. 5, motor vehicles are prohibited within park grounds except on access roads which are open to the public. Special permits may be available on an as-needed basis for special events. Emergency services and city vehicles are exempt. This is pretty much a version of what we have in the current rules. Parking is allowed in designated areas only. So in the parks.
Let me ask a question about the other one.
Sure.
We're planning on having, we've had one meeting, we have another meeting tomorrow about putting the Pinole Car Show back on. And we want to make sure that we can use the park as they've done for like the last 27 years. Is that going to be the same thing? Can we do it the way we've done it before?
So you will be required to apply for a permit, and the permit process will include whether or not you're allowed to use the park. So I can't answer that.
I need to know beforehand, before we get the permit, if we can do this. If not, then we'll move the location somewhere else. But this is the biggest fundraiser for the city and also for the business in the city. Old Town Pinole has brought business in like they don't have rest of the year. But if we can't use the park, then we won't have enough facility to put we had almost 350 cars last time, and I'm in charge of the event. So I need to know, because I'm having a meeting tomorrow night, if we're not going to be able to do it like we have in the past. The other car club did it for like 25 years. I've been in charge for the 2 years that we've had it since then. So if we can't do it the way it was been done for like 27 years, but then we'll find a new location. I really keep it in Pinole because it brings in such a revenue for the small business in downtown. That's one of the reasons I got involved with putting the thing on. I don't even have a classic car, but working toward putting it on to help like the Bear Claw and all the other little places down there. That's their best day of the year.
So in answer to that question, this park rule is the same as it is in the current park rules. So under the current park rules, the car show has been given a permit to use the park. So this language says that, you know, for special permits may be available. So you will be required to get a special permit. I believe you've applied for a permit in the past and you've gotten the special permit. The park rule itself doesn't bear on that. Your permit process bears on that. And Hector and Maria, I believe, along with PD, will go through the permit process with you.
Well, before I did all the work with Maria, and we took care of the forms that she gave us and took care of that. So how's that go, Maria?
Well, I took care of the rental reservation. The rental reservation would still be done with the department, but you would have to go through planning to get the additional permit, which I believe you've done before.
I don't remember doing anything but going through you to get the okay and pay the rental fees for the park for that day. And last time we did it, we had to get a $1 million bond for the guy that owns the little shopping center. And one of the ladies that takes care of the insurance for the city of Pinole added the policy, a $2 million policy to the city's policy, and I paid that fee to the city for adding it on as an additional insured.
Okay. Well, I can get you more information. I can send that over to you directly, Bob, on what will be needed for that.
Okay. Because
if I may chime in, Bob.
Yes.
2 years ago, when you had the car show, while you worked with Maria, I know you also worked with the city manager, and behind the scenes, the city manager was working with the planning department as well as community services and police department to make sure that all the requirements that you needed to put the car show together, such as closing the streets, the security that you would be required, that was all done through on the back end, but you did receive a special permit for your car show. So while you may have worked with Maria, that was also being done concurrently with Maria. So that process will not change. I think the sooner that you start the process, the better. While I do not foresee any problems with getting the special permits, you will have to submit some documents that you've done in the past.
Okay, I'll have to get the copy of the documents that you need for me to take care of. Because I don't remember, like I said, the city manager and I took care of a lot of it. And we had a couple of meetings with the police department and took care of it that way. So I just don't want to get this thing going and then have something come up and put a glitch in it. Because how we're going to do the flyer, just so you know up front, we're going to pick a date down the road, hoping that there's no problem with the county or anything like that. On the flyer, we're going to pick a date. It'll probably be September sometime, and it'll be on a Sunday. And we're going to put on the flyer, if for some reason that we have no control of, like the county says tomorrow, you cannot have the car show, we're going to put on the flyer that the money we receive will go to, I think it's going to be the Children's Hospital. We'll get half of what the profit is, and the other half, I want to give it to the senior center. So that's how we're planning on doing it. So the people can't come back, well, send me the money back. If you send in the flyer and your money, and you've read all of this, there should be no flack about, oh, send me my check back. You see what I'm going through? Because I don't want to send back 200 checks. So that's how we plan on proceeding with that. But the money will be going, half of it will be going to the city. Last time all of it went to the city. So.
Well, Bob, it sounds as if the process is not, for permit, is not significantly different than, what it has been.
Okay, I just didn't want anything to come up after we do a lot of work, plan it, get flyers made and all this kind of stuff, and then have something come up that it won't happen. Because without people paying in, I'm putting all the money up front until people start paying in to get this thing going. So I'm putting it out of pocket until we get revenue in.
Well, as I said, this particular rule is the same rule that we currently have. So this action before you doesn't change that activity. So that's a separate item and always fun. All right, so I'm going to move on.
Okay.
To parking is only allowed in the designated areas. Bicycle use in parks must comply with the vehicle code. That's actually a new rule for us, but it comes out of best practices we saw in other parks. Alcoholic beverages, open or closed, are not allowed in any city park at any time. And this is an addition. Persons using lineal parks as a means of transportation from shopping destinations may transport closed containers. 9, no glass containers are allowed in any city park. 10, dogs using the parks must be leashed at all times, except within designated areas. People must immediately remove any animal waste deposited by animals under their care for proper disposal. No animals are allowed in playground areas at any time. Feeding of wild animals within the parks is prohibited. That's a new rule, and one that might come with a little concern. But it's best practice. It's not healthy to feed the wild animals bread or even cat food.
It's also against fish and game laws that you can't feed any, it's illegal to feed any wild animals, according to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you. I hope that our just standalone feeding of wild animals when in the park is prohibited will be enough to get compliance. Fishing with any city park must comply with California Fish and Wildlife regulations. Now, we do have Fish and Wildlife visit Bayfront Park frequently to enforce fishing regulations, so we thought we would make that clear. Horses are allowed only on designated trails. People must immediately remove any animal waste deposited by animals under their care for proper disposal. That's an adaptation of an existing rule. No fires are allowed within any city park. No fireworks are allowed within any city park. City barbecue pits must be used for charcoal burning only. Barbecue coals must be fully extinguished before leaving the area. No outside or personal barbecues are allowed. That's something out of best practices because it typically results in people just depositing their ashes on the ground and leaving. So it's just not, there's a lot more safety issues involved with portable barbecues. No interfering with persons lawfully using or maintaining the park. That's a current rule. No persons shall modify, damage, or alter any park or park facility in any way. That's a new rule. No person shall destroy, injure, cut, or take any natural element from any part of any park, including but not limited to flowers, shrubs, seeds, wood, rocks, frogs, ducks, or crayfish. That's a new rule, but it's pretty much best practices in other areas. Swimming in San Pablo Bay is at your own risk. That's not quite a rule, but it actually arises out of points of conflict that the city's experienced, people calling and asking, can we swim in the bay? And, you know, we don't want to say, yes, you can swim, because we don't know if you can swim. That's like saying, can I play the piano? Sure, can you? So we just wanted it to be clear that whether it's because of your swimming skills or the water quality or the water temperature, swimming in the bay is at your own risk. Skateboarding is allowed only within the skateboarding park. Skateboarding is prohibited in all other park areas. Tennis courts are for playing tennis only. Park users must remove all refuse arising out of their use of the park for proper disposal. Amplified sound is prohibited within all parks without a permit. That's an existing rule. Both of those are existing rules. So they're just moving forward. No items may be left unattended within the parks. This includes chairs, animal habitat, or food, temporary monuments or memorials, campsites, and all other personal property. Any unattended personal property is subject to removal. So that's an expansion of a rule that we had, but it makes it clear that, and this is for liability reasons. I mean, we really can't just have stuff pop up in the park. We need to keep it under control. The use of inflatable jump type play equipment is allowed only as part of a park rental agreement within Fernandez Park. Any picnic activity or meeting of a group over 30 persons shall be required to have a permit for such activity. Any picnic or meeting of any size group desiring to use priority areas within the parks shall be required to have a reservation. Any persons using any park facility for profit, such as personal training, boot camp, filming, or lessons, shall be required to have a permit for such activity. Rental of specific areas of the park is managed by the city. All rental use must follow the rules provided in their rental agreement. So that takes what we used to have as 15 rules up to 32 rules. But I think that they are a great enhancement to our ability to monitor and control, guide and support the proper use of our parks. So I would love to ask for your endorsement to move these rules forward to the City Council. And then I'll take off on the policies.
So is everyone prepared to vote in favor of accepting these rules in total? I am.
Yeah.
I don't see any problems with what she's presented.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, thank you, everyone. So, Tamara, we're in agreement.
Thank you. We will bring these rules forward to the City Council. And with that, I'll take off on our next phase of park enhanced monitoring and support. And the city does want to take an opportunity to look at some of the park policies that we put forward in the operations and maintenance and guided use of the parks. So here are I think there's only 6. So here are the 6 policies that we want to talk about right away. Park hours, park lighting, park restroom hours, acceptance of donated trees and benches, commercial use of parks, and rental use agreements and policies. Now, we already have designated park hours, but that's really a policy choice. We have issues with park lighting. Some areas we light, some areas we don't. Some areas we close because they're not lit, some areas we don't. We can light more, we can light less. The park restroom hours have always been 8 to 4, but with COVID, we have this sharpened use of park systems, so we have a lot of interest in changing the park restroom hours. We've always had a great interest in donating trees and benches, almost to the point where we have pop-up stuff where we really don't need it, or we need to be more strategic in our placement. And in going through the park rules, we had this conversation about the commercial use of parks. This also arose out of COVID when gyms and trainers were looking for places outdoors to continue to earn revenue while COVID had shut everything down. And then just looking at putting all of these 32 rules on paper, we had an opportunity to discuss whether or not the use agreements needed to be updated and policies needed to be updated to promulgate the rules as it applies to focused use of the parks. So these are things that we're going to look at over time. The one that we want to pursue today in conversation is the park restroom hours. Again, that's an area of really heightened interest right now. COVID, changed the way we use our parks, changed the ability to do other things. So we do, again, as I said, have a heightened focus on the park restroom hours.
Tamara, is this 7 days a week or not? It does not include Sunday.
The park bathrooms are open 7 days a week. We don't open the bathrooms on city holidays.
Right.
So we observe like 11 or 12 holidays. So the park bathrooms are open about 353 days a year. And currently the hours are 8 to 4 because they match our work shift, because we physically use a key to unlock the bathrooms. So, when staff shows up in the morning, they unlock bathrooms. When staff shows up at the end of the day, they lock bathrooms. Or when they leave for the end of the day, they lock bathrooms. On the weekends, yes?
Remember on that thing about, when they put the new restrooms, I was working with our last city engineer that passed away, and they were going to set those up so that they would be electronically open at a given time and close at a given time on timers. So our personnel would not have to go down there at 8 in the morning and go back at 4 o'clock. So when they built a new facility, they didn't add that feature to it.
The brand new parks at Bayfront did not have a specification to add the automatic locks.
How about Fernandez?
Fernandez has the automatic locking system,
Okay.
yes. And we did look at a change order to add the automatic locks to Bayfront Park while we were in the midst of the wastewater treatment plant project, because that bathroom was built as part of that project. And the, what was the company? I forget which company provided those bathrooms. Their change order price was really high. So we rejected the opportunity to put those locks in under that contract as a change order.
I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say someone was in a restroom when it automatically locked. I'm assuming they can exit and then the door would relock. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a bypass button that they have to push.
Okay.
So just going back to finishing my thought on the hours, on the weekends, we actually have service providers unlock and lock the bathrooms. So that's how we are able to open them on the weekends. So the interest in extending hours obviously is somewhat of a challenge to us from a staffing level. So we have looked at modifying each and every bathroom in Pinole with an automatic locking system. And we believe we can do that. I think we have a price in here. $20,000 to equip all of the restrooms with magnetic locking systems that can be set on timers. It's a part way forward with the technology. There is more technology out there where you can computerize it and you can, dial into your phone. Maria, for example, could have the administrative rights to the software and dial in and lock it remotely, but that is much more costly. So we're proposing, in order to accommodate any change in restroom hours, that the bathrooms be equipped with magnetic locking systems so that they can be programmed. And we would continue to service the restrooms at 8 in the morning, like we do currently, and have them serviced on the weekends by a vendor. And that would allow the city policymakers, such as the Community Service Commission and the City Council, to modify the bathroom hours, as needs change. So we might be going through a phase now where everybody's enjoying the outdoors and focusing on park use. But we might go through a change and there's more activity that we want to discourage using the bathrooms after hours, so we can change the locks. So we think that in addition to making the recommendation that we continue we're moving forward, we're actually already moving forward with the magnetic locks, because in analyzing the data, we found that it was a great cost savings to us, and our staff can be doing other public works activities, and the payback cycle for this $20,000 is less than 1 year. So we're moving forward with the magnetic locks that will then allow us to change the hours to anything that's appropriate. At this time, we're generally making a recommendation that the park restroom hours match the park hours, so that as users to the park enjoy the outdoors, they have access to a bathroom. It's been hard with COVID because we did shut the bathrooms down, and then when we came out of the purple tier, we opened them, and then when we went back to the purple tier, we shut them down again. So as people were just coming out of their dens from their COVID hibernation, we kind of messed it up for them. So with that said, I don't know what COVID's going to do, but we are recommending that the park policy outside of emergency pandemics be changed so that the bathrooms are open to match the park hours. So Maria did a bunch of research on what other cities are doing, and she's right here and can share that with you if you have any questions. We've had some input from members of the public that say they would like the bathrooms open at the same hours. We've had members of the public, including Emmett today or yesterday, who called me. That was the public comment. He called and said, I would like to be able to use the bathroom at Bayfront Park until 6 p.m. specifically. So I wanted to share that. We've gotten a lot of input. So
can I ask one?
Sure.
If you're able to electronically close them, and you may have a vendor, an outside vendor doing some maintenance in the weekends, well, couldn't you keep them open on the 13 or 11 holidays or something as well?
Yes, with the magnetic locking systems, we can keep them open on the holidays.
Okay, super. Because the parks are really being used, and I think they're going to continue to be used.
Well, you have kids playing baseball down there until almost dark, so you need to have the restrooms open, until the park is closed, so the kids or anybody down there doing their sports down there has a place to go.
It's pretty much the same at all the parks anymore.
I'm just so happy to see people not staring at a 4x4-inch screen.
Yes.
So if they want to be out in the parks and they need to go to the bathroom, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I guess I've got a couple questions at this point. It sounds like you folks have already gotten and installed the magnetic locks, and what you're asking for advice on is the hours that they should be in effect. I've got a few questions about the locks, though.
We haven't put them in yet. We've ordered the materials. Again, we can't order them for the tennis court because that facility belongs to the county, but we're dialoguing with them about the locks for the tennis court as well. But please, Raphael, go ahead and ask a question.
Sure. So I guess the first question is, how difficult would it be for somebody to subvert these locks compared to your standard key and lock based thing? Would it be possible for somebody to hack them remotely to lock somebody in, say, or otherwise just get around them with greater ease than the existing lock systems?
That's an interesting question, and I'm not sure I can answer it because I don't know hacking behavior, but it's a magnetic lock. And the automatic system basically closes or opens the magnet. I guess it closes the magnet, and the doors are closed magnetically. So you'd have to have a pretty powerful magnet, I think, to override it. The control rooms are inside the maintenance alley that's between the bathrooms. So you could break into the maintenance alley and then probably bypass the locking system with classic electrical bypassing. There is a emergency release within each bathroom. So if you're in the bathroom, you can override the magnetic lock with the button, and there's instructions in there. We're actually thinking of loading them to YouTube too, because we're worried about our magnetic locks being broken because people can't figure out how to get out with the push button bypass. I don't know if you broke into the maintenance closet, if you could bypass the release and therefore lock somebody in, but everybody who uses these locks speaks of them very highly and has never shared with us that they've had an incident where somebody's been locked in the bathroom.
Okay, so I guess the real question I'm asking is these locks aren't, locks as a service. They're not hooked up to the internet for remote control. Right.
We're not using the high-tech technology that a hacker could really get into. We're using low-tech, like analog.
Right. And so that leads into my second question, which is if and when the locks do break, how expensive will they be to repair?
Well, the $20,000 is for, I think we're talking about 16 locking doors by the time we address each and every one. So it's about $1,000 to $2,000 per door. I don't know if the entire system would have to be replaced if they fail, or if just components would need to be replaced. But again, the payback cycle for us is less than a year. So even the maintenance activities of replacement would be beneficial. If that makes sense.
And I guess that leads into my final question. You said the payback cycle. So basically, you're saying these locks will allow for the reallocation of city staff time to other tasks, and that will create savings that can be used elsewhere in the city's budget.
Yes, exactly. We spend about an hour and a half just locking bathroom doors at the beginning of the day, and an hour and a half unlocking doors at the beginning of the day, and an hour and a half of locking doors at the end of the day. So, we've got a small crew. That's a sizable workload for a very important part of our job. I mean, we're here to, enhance and provide service in the parks. So that is part of our job. But those hours can be substituted with $20,000 worth of magnetic locking systems. So we're quite excited about that.
Well, that's all my questions then. That sounds good to me.
Debbie, did you have anything to ask or comment? It seems like a really good thing to have. Debbie?
I just think that it's a great idea, and it was making me chuckle about getting locked inside, but I doubt that there will be a problem with that.
Right.
And I think it's cost effective, and it's a great idea. And keeping the park hours open with in line with the restroom hours seems the right thing to do.
Sure.
And thank you, Tamara, for all your work on this.
You're welcome. I did forget to add, and I should do that now, is that we have consulted with police because extending the hours later might cause them some more community policing activities, and they support the extended hours. So they think this is an enhancement to, the enjoyment of Pinole. So they're on board.
And I suppose, quite frankly, if you ever had one set of doors that you did have a lot more policing problems, then you could re-examine that particular facility, and so.
Exactly.
Well, I think that everyone thinks it's a great idea to have the magnetic doors and at the same time to extend the use of bathroom hours to match the times that the parks are open.
So one point of clarity that I would love to have support in, which is that bathroom hours should be extended once the magnetic locks are installed.
Yes.
I mean, it'd be a challenge for us to do this because we'd have to have shift overtime, and although we're it's important, but we don't want to make a costly choice and say open the bathroom hours right away. I think the recommendations should be together, that they go together.
I think it's pretty logical that we would support that.
That definitely seems logical to me. So how long will it take to install the magnetic locks, assuming that it gets approved and all that?
I think Joe Bingaman, our public works manager, said that it might take a day per bathroom with our current staff. They'll learn how to do the system in one of the bathrooms. I think we're going to do Adobe Park first, and then Pinole Valley Park, then Bayfront Park, and then we'll continue to work with the county on the tennis courts.
Okay.
And so would the bathroom hours change on a park by park basis as the doors are switched over, or would it be all at once at the end to avoid confusion?
I believe it should be all at once at the end to avoid confusion. We're selecting that order, obviously, because the dog park and Pinole Valley Park are the furthest from us. And the Adobe Park is the oldest, so we're not, we want to start there because it might be the most challenging. And in addition, we can't wreck it if we have to explore it, learning how to put the locks in. But that'll save public works staff the most time right away, because we'll immediately set the park locks from 8 to 4, once they're installed. So we won't have to run and do them manually. And then as we get down to Bayfront Park, then we'll, broadcast a message that the park bathroom hours have changed.
It sounds wonderful. Sounds great to me. And I like the idea that once this project is completed, that they'll be open every day of the year.
Yeah. Well,
And I guess, does the proposal that we're discussing right now include that the restrooms would be open every day once the magnetic locks are installed, including city holidays?
Do not, I basically end my staff reports to you as the commission, because I think you're more of a working group with please discuss and advise.
Yes.
So yeah, you can most certainly make that part of your recommendation.
I think we would like to. You're hearing from everybody that it would make sense that if you have magnet controlled door opening and closing, that you would have them open every day of the year. And if they run into issues with specific bathrooms, and then maintenance will deal with that at that time.
I guess the only question I would have with having the restrooms open on holidays is, maintenance and cleaning costs. When we
that can happen
have city
anytime.
Staff come in on those days to do cleaning when we don't do that ordinarily, etc.
I think we would actually post it that the bathroom's not cleaned on the holidays, because we're still closed for service.
Sure.
So we would just hope that the users would be good stewards of the assets and that they are available. But if you walk in one and it doesn't look good, use the next one.
And quite frankly, that can happen on a day that is not a holiday anyway. So.
Yes, exactly. And it can happen 15 minutes after we've cleaned them. And we've had that experience.
I like how Tamara said, we hope that they can be good stewards.
And you should post in the bathrooms if there are, any specific issues or anything, please contact them with a phone number. Someone can call if there's damage or something.
Yes, just as with any asset in the city.
Right. I think, Tamara, we certainly have discussed, and that's what we would advise. So we're advising that, yes, we like these new ideas, and we would like the bathrooms to be open as the same hours as the parks, and we would like them. We would like them to be open every day of the year. Is that what I'm hearing from everybody?
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And,
Okay.
that you support the hours changing when the mag locks are installed.
Yes. Then
And that
do
you
it at one time.
you support minor modifications deemed appropriate.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm going to say goodnight and excuse myself.
Okay. Good night, Tamara.
Thank you.
Okay. On to new business. Compost giveaway. Okay, Maria, you're on.
I'm gonna get you the date on the compost giveaway because I don't want to give you the wrong information. So just bear with me while I pull that up.
Okay.
Okay. So the city will be hosting a compost giveaway on Saturday, April 24th from 9 to 1 p.m. at Pinole Valley Park. And this will be in celebration of Earth Day. It is, everybody will have to bring their own pail and bucket. We won't be able to provide any of that, and it will be available on a first come, first serve. And it's limited to 1 cubic yard per address, and it's open for Pinole residents only.
That sounds great.
That's it on the compost giveaway.
Okay. Now, reopening of recreation programs. How is the calendar looking?
So we have drafted plans for a phased reopening for recreation programs, and Hector and I are discussing it, and then we will meet with the city manager to discuss that and reopen our programs. All 3 facilities have been closed. We have been offering virtual programming at the 3 facilities. They've been successful at the senior center and our Tiny Talk program, but our youth center, the programs have not taken off. So the community is definitely anxious to see those reopen. So we're working on those plans, and it is a phased approach. It won't be, we have to follow all the county and state guidelines with reopening these programs. When we reopen, there could be a combination of virtual programming and in-person programming as well.
And you would probably, for example, if you had an exercise class, you would probably limit the number of people or something for a while. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we have to follow. So there's currently for our exercise program, and even for the senior center, there's no specific guidelines. There is guidelines for youth programming, but there's nothing to our senior center specifically.
Okay. So
we have to look at what is the guidelines for any exercise classes. So, the biggest space at the senior center is the main hall. So Christina and I have measured, and we've determined, I think the max capacity in that space would be 16, based on the requirements of the social distancing requirement that would be needed. A lot of the other spaces at the senior center are smaller, so they wouldn't accommodate the groups that are usually meeting in those spaces. So we are, continuing to monitor all the guidelines and continuing to adjust as we move forward with those plans. Idea would be to open, the 3 facilities as the guidelines permit at the same time.
that sounds great. So we're moving in the right direction. Obviously, you don't have dates or anything, but you're making plans.
Yeah, making plans, and once that, once we have everything finalized, we will, communicate with the public, and we'll let everybody know of our reopening plans and when that will happen.
Sounds great. Are there any comments from anyone on the board, on the commission? I think everyone's excited that we're moving in that direction.
Very excited. I was just curious if you had a vague idea about, just a guesstimate about when the senior center may open for events.
For rental events, or just, you mean the big events, like the rentals?
Yes.
Well, I don't have an estimate on that. I think right now we've been looking at our reopening of our programs and services first. And then once we get through that, then, we will start to look at the reopening. I know the community is also anxious to, resume the indoor gatherings at our facilities. But once we have that, then, we'll be able to provide that as well, Debbie.
And even with, when you first open with programs, people are probably going to have to reserve a spot or whatever, so people aren't, so it's controlled, right?
Yes, there will be registration, especially at the senior center, which was a drop-in program before. There will be some registration either done through our online system or by calling the center. We'll try to accommodate, what works best for the patrons.
Sure. That sounds great.
If I may jump in and also briefly introduce myself. So I've had the opportunity to meet some of you, but not all of you. I'm Andrew Murray. I'm the city manager. Have been here for about a year, but haven't gotten out to meet as many folks as I would like because we've all been sheltering at home or at work. So nice to meet you all. As you probably have read, the governor has said that he expects California to completely reopen by June 15th if we continue to make progress on vaccinations and case rates, staying low. So I think that's a general target we're working towards for all of our programs, recreation programs, reopening City Hall and others. That's of course subject to change based on how COVID plays out, but I think that's what we have in mind generally. Maria, I know that you, Hector, and I have talked about it a little bit. And do you think that that's about the timeline on which we'll be reinstituting some of the recreation programs?
I think that's what we had kind of looked at, was like a June or, summer reopening. For us, we have a lot of staff that have been furloughed too from our part-time staff. So making sure that's going to play a big part in if can we reopen, if we have the staff that will be able to return and be able to help us with the reopening of our facilities. But it's something that would possibly be doable with modifications, of course. Especially at the senior center, I don't anticipate being what it was prior to COVID, especially at the beginning. But that would be my thought on that.
And we're going to, sorry if I may, we're going to be providing an update to the City Council at the meeting on Tuesday with a rough timeline for reopening. So once we have gotten that together and presented it, Maria can circle back with the Commission to let them know what we've reported as our tentative plan related to recreation programs.
That sounds great.
As I was about to mention also is that in most of our programs, we are dealing with instructors. So we're also working with the instructors to make sure that they're comfortable in providing the classes and that they feel that the number of participants are sufficient for them to provide the classes, because at times they do have a minimum that they'd like to meet. So that's part of the mix, but we're hoping through the reopening that we can start opening some of the programs very soon, with ultimately a June deadline to open up the larger programs, again, consistent with the county's requirements and restrictions.
Can I just say that it was very nice to meet you, Mr. Murray. I hadn't met you before, and I'm glad that you came and joined the meeting.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. The Mr. Murray doesn't really resonate with me.
Oh.
It doesn't offend me, but when somebody says that, I think they're talking about my dad.
Oh.
So feel free to call me Andrew.
Okay, yes, I will.
Nice to meet you too, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay, Andrew, I'm Bob. I would like to meet with you and go over the information I've received from Contra Costa County today and give you a copy of it. And I would like to go over, since you haven't been around when we put the car show on, kind of give you an overall view of exactly what goes on if you have the time.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I'll be coordinating with Maria to find a time to connect with you, Bob, to talk about the car show.
Okay, that sounds great. She has my phone number.
Oh, sounds good that we're starting to, reopen recreation programs in a controlled fashion. I figure it's going to make everybody feel better about how things are going. And I feel like, reopening in a controlled fashion, going from smaller stuff to larger stuff is going to allow for easier corrections if something goes wrong or it turns out there's some issue that we didn't know about versus just opening up everything all at once. So sounds great to me.
It's very positive. Okay, if there are no further comments, thank you, Hector, Andrew, Maria, for coordinating, and of course, Tamara, for coordinating and helping us through the questions and reviews of things. And if there are no more questions or anything, I will adjourn the meeting. Is there anything else that anyone wants to discuss?
No.
This has been wonderful. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and the next meeting is scheduled for May 26th. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.